Sports reports, no gimmicks, no clowns. 2-5, Mr. Logical, we run this town. Real talk only, no chasing, no doubt. From the east to the west, it's the order we shout. Mic check, lights flash, game time, stay ready. 2 vets in the zone, keep the pressure real heavy. Big hits, big plays, yeah, we breaking it down. Truth rings in your speakers, every word is the crown. From the north side hustle to that southern flame. Midwest grind, west coast of the game. Sports talk kings, yeah, we wear that crown. Turn it up, let them know it's about to go down. Sports reports, no gimmicks, no clowns. 2-5, Mr. Logical, we run this town. Real talk only, no chaser, no doubt. From the east to the west, it's the order we shout.
It's about to go down.
Yes, you are now listening to the sounds of Sports Reports is Ordered. We got picks, and more picks. We got the national title game from Hard Rock Stadium on Monday night, MLK Day. You know, we got some NFL picks to get to for this weekend. You know, it is Wednesday night. So, you know, if there's some injuries that we missed, don't hold it against us. It just is what it is. But like, review, subscribe, share, rate, do all the free things. Do all the good things with a liquid death in your hand. And you know the only thing that's better than one liquid death in your hand is a liquid death in both hands. Bang. Let's get right to it. So, Mr. Logical.
You're
the Miami Hurricanes hosting the national championship game, basically. You know, I saw this a few times in the 90s. They got smacked around by Nebraska. But hey, new era, new opponent that no one expected this season. The Indiana Hoosiers trying to become the first ever team to go 16-0. Who wins this game and why?
Indiana's had a impressive playoff run, starting with the Big Ten championship. Didn't score a lot of points, but they basically held down one of the best offenses in the country to 10 points, and they looked completely discombobulated the entire game. And then they've been running through everybody else. Miami has a very formidable defensive line. Like I said, they win the trenches. I just think that Indiana, they have a lot of transfers. A lot of guys are probably closer to 22, 23 all over the field. Like there's a guy, that wide receiver, played with Trevor Lawrence at Clemson. So it's like they got some age. Like I said, hopefully we figure it out over the next few years. But as far as like this month, this championship is happening next week, I'm gonna take the Hoosiers. I think they're in a better groove. I think Miami escaped their game against Ole Miss. There's a benefit to being at home. You know, like of that $20 million or something you get for making the championship game, I think $3 million is kind of allocated for travel. Well, Miami's like across the street, so that
free money.
So at least they have the free money. I like the playmakers that Miami has on offense. I just think that Indiana might force Carson Beck into a mistake where Ole Miss couldn't. I just feel like I feel that big mistake happening, a la Dante Moore throwing the pick six on the first play. Am I predicting a defensive touchdown on the first possession? Probably not. But I just have a feeling that Malachi Tony deep over route, like he's waiting for it to come open, and Indiana gets to him, fumbles the ball, momentum change, and then they just, run the ball 6-7 yards a carry, and then Mendoza doesn't put the ball in harm's way. Very accurate, and like I said, he's in chemistry with his wide receivers. I'm gonna take Sig Nasty and the Hoosiers.
Yeah. So to your point, Fernando Mendoza, Mr. Heisman, if you will, 31 of 36, 369 yards, 8 touchdowns, no interceptions in this here playoff. I go back and I try to think of the tough games that Indiana had. They had the Ohio State game, and obviously
36 passes in 2 games.
Yes. Run that ball.
They run the hell out
Roman
of the ball.
Hemby, from the University of Maryland. He was a transfer. But I think that I was trying to think of who did Indiana struggle with this year, and there was Ohio State, of course, the talent of all talent, Jeremiah Smiths of the world, Julian Sand having a great year as a first-year starter. Iowa, on the road at Iowa, they got out of there with a 20-15 win. Penn State obviously was the game where the toe tap that you could never probably pull off again if you tried.
Shout out to the ref.
So Miami presents Indiana some problems. Like you mentioned, the trenches. That's the big thing I've been talking about all year. Miami in the trenches. Ruben Bain, who I think is going to be a top NFL pick, top 5, top 6 player in the draft. He's going to make life rough on Mendoza early. The crowd is going to be into it. Michael Irvin going to snort his line. Ray Lewis is going to be preaching from the pulpit. Miami's going to be rowdy coming out of this game. The only problem is
single one of their legends is going to be on the sideline in some capacity, either working or
Ed Reed
sideline pass. Ed Reed's going to be there. Reggie Wayne's going to be there. I imagine Devin Hester probably try to make his way down there. I imagine they're going to bring back every heavy hitter they've had, probably the whole 2001 team that they can bring back. If they can bring everybody back and have that environment, yeah, I think they will. But
there's only one problem.
Michael Irvin's not running routes.
There's only one problem for Miami. The first quarter ends. So all that energy is fun for the first 15 minutes of the game. Maybe even Indiana comes out a little tight. It is the national title game. But eventually, I think Indiana's the better team, and that will just take over. Miami's been able to run the ball, 38.7 attempts rushing in the playoffs. 173 yards, a game in these playoffs. Another problem for Miami. Indiana leads the nation. Yeah, I like that one too.
Leads to death.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Another problem, for Miami. Indiana leads the nation in third down conversions. So can you get them off the field? How banged up is Hakeem Mesidor? Xavier Lewis suspended for the first half due to the targeting.
I hate that. I hate that
it too.
Rule so much. I don't know how they signed off on that at all. I don't get it. So, I'd rather lose the player and like one of the assistant coaches for the rest of the game that the targeting happens in versus losing the player for the first half of the next game. I don't know. I think it does disservice to, especially considering that there's such judgment calls. Like if a guy's falling to the ground, I'm going to tackle his legs. What I'm also do levitate. But yeah.
So you ready for the stat of the day?
Let's hear it.
And I can't even take credit for this one. This was from Robbie Callan of CBS Sports. When Indiana this year averages 4 yards per carry, their average margin of victory is 42.8. Craziness.
That's a regular
craziness.
That's a regular handoff.
Right. So I say all that to say Miami, stop the run. as the great Taz would say back in ECW, saying, win if you can, survive if I let you. So I think Sig Nasty is coming out here to make a statement as well. And the best part of this, like I was talking about the other night, when we did our last show, the thing that's being missed here is not that Sig Nasty is doing his thing. It's not that Mendoza won the Heisman. It's all the James Madison players that he brought with him. You know what I'm saying? And then the matchup, you brought it up, Malachi Tony. I'm looking forward to that matchup with D'Angelo Pons. He was the one that picked off Dante Moore early in that game. Look, I'm not saying that the Hoosiers are going to blow Miami out, but I think what we're going to see is a suffocation where it's going to be close. And then in the fourth quarter, Indiana pads the score just a little bit. So you might end up with something along the lines of, say, a 31-21, and, but it was 24-21 for a while, but you still never necessarily thought that the Hoosiers were going to lose. I think that's what the type of game that we're looking at.
I did not think that they were going to beat the brakes off of Oregon.
Right.
but we didn't think that Ohio State was going to beat the brakes off of Oregon last year. I think these things just kind of happen. The thing that Miami has going for them is that they've gone through a bit of a gauntlet. They played 3 games to Indiana's 2. So I don't think they're going to come out flat to the point where Indiana just jumps on them 14-0.
All right, so hold on, stay there for a second.
Something like that.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this real quick. So you remember when Oregon and Indiana played, or when it was coming up, I asked you, is the pressure on Indiana, did it reverse? Because the first matchup, the pressure was on Oregon, like, hey, just beat this team. Nobody expects Indiana to beat. So do you think that Miami being at home counters Miami playing with house money?
I think them being at home keeps it from being an ass whooping that they delivered to Bama and Oregon.
Okay.
I think playing at home, I think, like I said, all of the legends on the sideline. I just feel that Ray Lewis in your ear or in the huddle after an Indiana touchdown might give you a little bit of a jolt. But I think running the football is probably the one of the aspects that travels better than any other aspect of football. Controlling the line of scrimmage and running the football, because in and of itself, play calling, running the ball is a simple concept. If you are going forward at the speed that most of these guys, before you make first contact, that's 3 or 4 yards. 3.5 yards per play is a first down. So if you're consistently controlling the line of scrimmage to the point where your running backs are getting 3.5 to 4 yards, you can control the clock. And then the play action, everything else, because the defense has to adjust to the fact that you're doing this simple thing and you're dominating us because of it. You make a couple of passes through the air, there can be drops. It could be pass interference, could be deflected, just miscommunication. You could throw the ball all over the place. That's why a lot of teams don't win games at the college level or pro level where the quarterback throws the ball 45 plus times. That's just not normally a recipe for success. But if your running backs are getting the ball 30 to 35 times, that means you're effectively managing the game and dominating up front. So I think that part of it, I think Miami will get the jolt because they're at home. I don't know what the ticket situation looks like. I know the stadium capacity is something like 64 to 60.
I've seen $4,000 tickets.
I heard $10,000 tickets.
But I think Indiana will travel. Because, as a Hoosier fan.
Travel, but
and I don't know how many Hoosier fans.
You went from, where was the Big Ten championship? Was it in?
It was in Indianapolis. It was
in Lucas.
Yeah.
So you had that game. Then maybe you traveled to Cali. And then you traveled to, was there a game in Atlanta?
I want to say it was yes.
So you just went from Cali. So you're home for your Big Ten championship game, time off. Maybe you work some overtime. You got that flight out to Pasadena, hotels, everything else. And then now your game down in Atlanta, and now you got to get another one down in Miami. I think maybe the bandwagon, that they might get a few thousand people on bandwagon, or might just get people who just want to see the championship game. But I've heard like $10,000 tickets. I believe the capacity of the stadium Hard Rock is like 65,000. So I imagine it should be 35,000 plus Miami fans. I would hope. Like I get, even if they travel, they shouldn't have more than 30,000 Indiana fans in that stadium, especially if you're in Miami, all the connections, the boosters, whomever else. Like it should be 35, 40,000.
Oh, and we didn't even mention Uncle Luke,
you still got the dude Shapiro that was paying all the players back in the day. I guess he's free. You probably can pay him again. So
real quick, did you see the news that apparently all the FBS coaches unanimously voted to make the red shirt, instead of 4 games, you can play 9 games before you red shirt?
These dudes are just hustling backwards.
That's all they doing. Just give 5 years of eligibility.
Just come up.
Just give 5 years of eligibility. Like
these are simple plans. When you and I joined the Air Force in 2000, 2 options. You can sign up for 4 years, sign up for 6 years. Cool. 4 years came with these perks, this size of a bonus. 6 years came with these perks, this size of a bonus, this data rank versus this data rank. It's simple. I know you're trying to fill all these spots, but they need to simplify what they say a student athlete is, because it's not this complicated. Like, because you really want guys playing 9 games. That gets me 2 weeks before the rivalry game, being like, I'm a redshirt and like they're just putting themselves in a position where they're gonna go on TV and complain about the transfer portal. And in the meantime, you're making up rules and putting forth voting identities that don't make any sense. Like the SEC wants 16 teams, somebody else wants 24. It's like all of these things. Like, yo, you need to figure out, can 24 to 26-year-olds still play college football? You need to figure out if you're actually going to recruit high school kids, and are you going to increase the number so you can recruit high school kids so you still can keep getting, like, those things you need to figure out, not all this championship. How do we get the most money out of college football? That's all it's all about. They want to be able to play a guy, let him redshirt, keep him, let him make plays, and then redshirt him, have him come back as a freshman, and then redshirt again, have him play 2 years as a sophomore, and he's fucking 27 years old before he graduates.
Just give him 5 years. That's 3/4 of the season that we're talking about. 12-game regular season, playing 9 games. Like 4 makes sense. Like, hey, maybe you got injured, or like, hey, maybe, we're saving you for next year, but we got a chance to get a look at you. And I think it only really affects quarterbacks in that way.
It should be 0 and 4 if you get injured. You should start the season like, listen, hey, you're a freshman. We're going to redshirt you. You're not playing. Line of demarcation is August 15th. Is this guy going to play this year? I'll give you August 25th, because the season normally starts like that, like the last week in August.
Week 0.
The last Sunday before the first game that anybody plays, even if you're not playing it. The first game is that following Saturday. The Sunday prior is the cutoff. Monday morning, you submit your roster. If a guy gets hurt before the 4th game, he can redshirt. If he gets hurt after that, then that person has to go through the individual medical exemption, and then they can determine whether or not you could have come back in the season or you missed the season, and they make the determination from there. But letting guys play 75% of the season 3-4 years in a row, and he's still a soft redshirt sophomore after he's played 27 college football games, it's just asinine to me.
Well, I would imagine that you would only get the red shirt once, but we'll find out more as we go forward.
Who
but the
knows?
one thing that we don't need to learn,
they would go to 9 games.
But the one thing that we don't need to learn, because we know, is that nobody circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. So Buffalo takes the show over to Mile High this weekend. Bo Nix and the gang coming off the bye. Raph's favorite coach, Sean Payton, back in the mix. You know what I mean? Mr. Logical.
Yes.
Are you giving the Bills a chance to win this game?
I mean, you got to give them a chance just because their MVP quarterback plays well in these big games. Like, Josh Allen rarely plays poorly. He doesn't have, like I said, it's a lot of circumstances to a quarterback playing a bad game, but it rarely happens for Josh in the playoffs. The team, making a mistake here or there, or a call not going away, or coin toss, that's happened a lot, but he doesn't play poorly. But he is the focal point of the offense. We talk about James Cook and their ability to run the ball. But when it comes to the passing game, it's not just Josh has these weapons and he's dangerous and he has dangerous weapons. It's he's dangerous because he turns these guys into dangerous weapons. See what I'm saying? It's like he can buy the time. Like Brandon Cooks has probably been on 6 or 7 teams, probably. We had to guess.
Something like
probably
that.
like not consecutive years.
Yeah, I could
But
think of 3 off the top of my head. 4
like
off the top of my head.
Saints,
Rams,
Patriots, Rams,
Cowboys.
Now the Bills. I imagine somebody else is probably mixing it somewhere. So in the biggest moment last week, he found him and down the seam. So like that's what Josh Allen can do. You know, like I said, Bo Nix in the playoffs. Granted, I believe their second year because they were in the playoffs last year. They didn't do great. Home field advantage does help, but I think they're so reliant on Josh. But I'm not sure Denver really has anything offensively that they can really rest their hat on. You know what? Reluctantly, I'm gonna go with Buffalo in the upset on the road to make it to the AFC Championship game. I'm just gonna go with it because I think at this point, like if we looked up the odds, it's probably a coin toss, it's probably 55-45 or something along those lines. Depends on what site you go to.
Yeah. So, yeah, because Buffalo opened up as a 1.5 point favorite. Denver's now a 1.5 point favorite. So you brought up something in that, you brought up how Denver made the playoffs last year, didn't go so well. So if I was Sean Payton, all this week, all the Broncos would have saw was 31-7 Buffalo all over the locker room. That's who they lost to in the playoffs last year. This very team put Michael Irvin style belt to ass. So look, so there's a couple of things here. I think, and this is just me, I think Buffalo is the worst matchup of the AFC teams for Denver. Maybe Jacksonville as well, because obviously they lost to Jacksonville already, so you have to take that into consideration. But considering who's left right now, I think Buffalo's probably the worst matchup because the couple of things that Buffalo does well, they defend quarterbacks out of the pocket as well as anybody in the league. Bo Nix is not your typical stand there quarterback, wait for what the defense gives him. He's an action finder. He's going to go out there and try to make the play, and Buffalo's going to be lying in wait. Denver, the plan should be to run the ball. We saw Jacksonville average about 7.5 yards a carry against Buffalo the other day. But guess what Denver can't do very well or consistently? Run the ball. So they can't even hurt Buffalo where you generally would hurt Buffalo. They have the dynamic quarterback of the two. Bo Nix makes plays, don't get me wrong, but he has a lot of that Caleb Williams. They make plays when they need to make plays, but they don't constantly keep pressure on you throughout the game. Where Denver makes their mark is in that fourth quarter. We saw it against the Giants when they came back from the 20-point lead or whatever it was.
Yeah.
They made these plays. But the problem with that is Buffalo is second in the league in fourth quarter points. So every time I find an advantage for Denver, I go, but Buffalo can do that.
Buffalo,
what I'm saying? Buffalo can stop that, something along those lines. Obviously, Denver has the Super Bowl winning head coach, even though that was many, many moons ago. It still happened. Yeah, it still happened. I think that Buffalo is going to win this game. I think we're looking at a game similar to the Jacksonville game, but probably a little lower scoring. Because if I remember correctly, that game was 27-24. So I'm going to say that this game will be closer to that 23-20 range, but I like Buffalo.
Well, we're in agreement, so...
All right. Well, let's go to Saturday night.
We're bound to be wrong.
Let's go to Saturday night. But before I even bring it up, Mr. Logical, let me ask you a question. I saw Kyle Shanahan and some other 49er people and fans talking about, hey, the Rams and Bears both played on Saturday. So why do they get to play on Sunday and we have to play on Saturday? So here's my question. Do you think that Buffalo and San Francisco are playing on Saturday solely because they're playing against the 1 seed?
I mean, that could be a part of it because you already had a team that's been sitting for a whole week. You want to give them the opportunity to get out in the field. That's one part of it. Another
And
part could
the
be
short rest gives you the advantage as the 1 seed.
gives you the advantage. It could be box office. If you're looking at Rams Bears, you have the up and coming young gun coach quarterback combination against the old guard potential MVP. Two top markets. We think LA is 2, Chicago is 3. So if I'm the NFL, like I got to factor that in because you don't have any New York City teams available. So what do I do next? Okay, well I'm putting the next two popular cities on, coupled with the fact that they have like a really good NFL story to tell. It's going to be, it could be 41-38. Like legitimate, like if you're looking at Houston, New England, you're not putting it on nighttime, like Saturday on a Sunday night slot because that might not be 41-38. That might be 13-10. A game you love, but the NFL is like, listen, we need fireworks to wrap up the weekend. And they probably feel like, hey, Buffalo's going to get us started because Buffalo game is Saturday. So Buffalo, we get the excitement of Josh and his, all of his celebrity and his MVP acclaim, and then we wrap the weekend up with a guy we feel like is going to be the MVP this year. I think it's reasonable.
All right, so 49ers going to Lumen Field to play Seattle. Obviously, they met 2 weeks ago, up in Levi Stadium, 13-3. Seattle win, domination. Wasn't even really that close. You go back to earlier in the season, San Francisco held Seattle to 13, won 17-13. So I guess I'm saying look at the under in this game, maybe. But are you giving the beat up, mash unit? I feel like we ask this every week. 49ers a chance. And of course, the big one here is they're missing George Kittle. And I'm not even looking at that from a pass catching standpoint. I'm looking at that from the blocking standpoint as well.
Run blocking, intensity, energy. Reds is gonna kill me when he sees it. But I'm a logical person. So the 1 seed that's been sitting at home, that has one of the top defensive teams, a defensive head coach. They have a resurgent quarterback, young and up and coming wide receiver, Cooper Kupp, the veteran. I think they run the ball well with their two-headed monster and Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker. And they're at home. And like Seattle's already a tough place to play anyway. But San Francisco's coming there yet outgunned again. And it's worse than it was last week. And we talked about, Chicago living on the edge and playing, Caleb Williams playing with his hair on fire, how that can't last. I just don't see how an opponent you're going to see for the third time this year is on the road in the playoffs. They're rested, you're injured, and they drop that game. I don't think it'll be like one of these games where they look completely, just beat up, like because they're injured. But I just think just through attrition, like you have to have players available. Seattle has all their horses, and they're at home, so I'll take Seattle.
Hey, was Jawan Jennings on that team when Brock Purdy got hurt against Philly?
He might have been.
I mean, it don't matter. I was just going to say, why they ain't play Jawan Jennings at quarterback?
He probably went on a team then.
Instead of Josh Johnson. But anyway, I am interested in this game for something that you brought up, the third time around. Because, I always make the comment that I don't want to play an offensive coach the second time because now he can dissect what I threw at him the first time. And now you giving a guy like Kyle Shanahan the jump. You know what I'm saying? But that didn't matter, obviously, the last time they played. Seattle held them to 173 yards. So now the third time, what does Shanahan have in store for Seattle? You know what I mean? Jackson Smith and Jigba going to have a big game, I think. You know, and then when I look at this game, San Francisco held the ball for about 37 minutes against Philly. They're not going to be afforded that here. And as we saw against Philly, even though I call him playoff Purdy, he still threw 2 picks. And one thing Josh Purdy will do, he will throw picks. But on the other side, do I trust Sam Darnold in a big game? So I think the 49ers will keep it close. But I'm going to say the same thing I said last week, unfortunately, and I was wrong. But it's only so long this can last. You know what I mean? At some point, it has to catch up with you. And I think we saw that week 18. And I don't know what's changed between now and then, besides Seattle being rested and the 49ers losing more players. So I got to go with Seattle in this game. You know, lower scoring, I think 20-16 sounds about right. If they win this game, if the 49ers win this game, then look, you know, Kyle Shanahan might just start the statue. You ain't got to put it up yet, but just start it.
Yeah. Go ahead and get that mold done. Maybe name the stadium after him. I don't know, but he's definitely done an incredible job. He's been one of the most consistent head coaches in the league. It's just, you know, most consistent coaches that he's been in the league, and you know he has this guy in Brock. Is just. He keeps losing his, you know, he's a great chess player, but he's losing a lot of major pieces. And yes, you could get the pawn all the way across the board and it could be a queen, but that's a lot of work. It's a lot of stuff you got to get through. And I don't think they have enough time to turn one of these guys who's going to have to step in into Fred Warner, or turn a guy, this backup tight end that's coming in, into Kittle. You know, so I just don't think there's enough time. Week 14, you give me 3 or 4 weeks until the playoffs start, then maybe. But like losing these bodies, and then it just just the compilation of all the bodies and the people who they're losing. It's just tough to overcome.
And then the other problem is, last thing for me, is that's a tough back-to-back. You know what I mean? Like, because you were talking about Indiana, you know, they went to Cali, then to Atlanta, you know, like they
had like 10 or 11 days in a row.
Right.
In between,
Yeah. And then, the 49ers are going from Philly to Seattle, and talk about a tough matchup physically, you know, coming off of playing Philly. Your next matchup that's tough. That is tough. And I know it's the NFL, but that's tough. You know what I mean? Yeah. So Texans and Patriots, you know, hopefully the Texans ended the facade that was Aaron Rodgers. You know, maybe that's the last we've seen of him. You know, they're going into Foxborough, home of champions.
Career 570 career touchdowns or something crazy like that.
Yeah.
Passing and rushing touchdowns.
Yeah.
They beat the brakes off Pittsburgh.
The Texans are coming into this one pretty banged up themselves. Not as banged up as San Francisco, obviously, but Nico Collins, you know, I think he had 2 concussions the other night, you know, so I'm not sure he's going to make this one. So, Mr. Logical, you know, the Texans, 10-game winning streak on the line, going up against the other presumptive MVP candidate. Who wins?
New England wins, because C.J. Stroud and the Houston Texans offense can't consistently put drives together. It's that they'll put together an impressive drive, and then it's, you know, punt, turnover, punt, then another couple of drives, defense makes a stop, maybe a team goes for it on 4th down, they come back out, hit a big shot. They just don't consistently move the ball enough for me to pick them. Because even at halftime with the Steelers, you know, they call a couple of better play calls. It's 10-7. Like they're you know, those turnovers were costly. Should have been more costly that Houston had. Pittsburgh just couldn't capitalize because their offense just wasn't dynamic enough to just defeat the pass rush. Will Anderson, Daniil Hunter, the creative player. It's just what they were doing up front was just unfair. Like they got one sack. Each one of them pushed a guard into the lap of Aaron Rodgers. I don't know who got credit for the sack because I don't think either player touched him until he hit the ground. But they literally just pushed a guard, the right guard and the left guard, just got pushed right into Aaron Rodgers' lap on a crucial down, and like that's what they were able to do. But if Drake May gets outside of that and he's making plays and New England can get to about 17 points, 20 points, I'm not sure Houston has the consistency on offense to keep up. So I like New England.
So I think we saw some fool's gold last week. The team that doesn't get to the quarterback suddenly got to the quarterback whenever they wanted to. You know, the beat up offensive line that the Chargers brought into Foxborough. You know, we talked about the Texans' offensive line most of the year and how they leave a lot to be desired. But I saw something Monday night that I really like. I've been loving Woody Marks all year, and I think he might have announced himself this past Monday. Now, Nico Collins is going to be tough. You know, it's going to be tough to win this game without him. But they've played without him this year, and they have a 10-game winning streak. So there's that. You know, Houston is the one team in the NFL that has never won a game in the divisional round, which is just nuts to even think about. But CJ Stroud, to your point, he fumbled 5 times against the Steelers the other day. 5 times. You know, so the one thing that I think gives Houston the advantage in this game and why I'm picking Houston to win this game,
okay,
is that Drake May hasn't played against a top defense all year. So, like, this is a little different because, you know, we talk about the schedule that the Patriots had, the schedule that the 49ers had. I don't know who the best defense is that the Patriots played this year. Like, I don't know if
they played a favorable schedule.
Yeah, so I don't know if they're used to the intensity that these guys that you're talking about, the Will Andersons, the Neil Hunters, these people are going to bring at them. And it's not just the pressure. It's not just the pressure because on the back end, you got Stingley and Lassiter, like, you know, so this is a well-rounded defense. This isn't this is probably the closest defense. Well, I don't want to disrespect Seattle, but this is like you're playing against Denver's defense almost.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you know, and maybe even better when you look at the metrics and everything like that. So I think that the Patriots were fortunate because I think if they played Jacksonville last week, I would have picked Jacksonville. You know, if they played Buffalo last week, I'd have picked Buffalo. If they picked Denver, I might have went toss up. You know, but I think D'Amico Ryans has a good thing going. And listening to Will Anderson the other night after the game with Scott Van Pelt, you know, like that shows me what's going on in that locker room. Now, Vrabel has some of that too. These guys are playing for him. They're fighting. They're taking on his personality. But Drake May, I don't know, outside of this rookie, Travion Henderson, when they choose to use him, I don't know how many playmakers the Patriots have. You know, because to beat a team,
I think the Hunter Henry connection is pretty solid. I think Keyshawn Booty is a solid connection. I think Stephon Diggs. I just feel like they played a schedule for a team, and they just happen to just be a lot better than we thought they were going to be, and they just already had this schedule kind of built. Because I don't think we had a conversation about Drake May being in the MVP conversation at the beginning of the season. So even if you play that type of schedule, to play at MVP level against any NFL defenses week in and week out is a testament to your ability to at least find playmakers and make things happen for your team. With Houston, we talked about the win streak. Not a lot of games where they scored over 24 points. You know, not me. A lot of these games are you got 20 points, 23. You got 40 against the Cardinals, 20 against the Chiefs. A game where you got like 3 picks off of Mahomes. You only got 20 points out of it. 20 against the Colts, 23 against the Bills, 16 versus the Titans. They had the comeback victory against the Jaguars where they got the defensive touchdown. They got them to 36 points, but they were down big in that game.
And Stroud
was
didn't even
Davis
play in
Mills,
that game.
and that was Davis Mills. Yeah, so I just think that the offense has the playmakers, but they haven't really shown consistently with CJ Stroud. Like I said, I don't think CJ Stroud is a bad quarterback. I just think that they haven't been able to put it all together.
No, I think he has a
And
little
the
bit of
defense-
gun shyness. You know, after
but
getting hit so
the
much.
defense is so dynamic that they get you the ball back. A lot like the Joe Flacco offense with the Baltimore Ravens defense. Flacco was a good quarterback. His completion percentage was around 57, 58% for most of his regular seasons, and it ramped up in the playoffs because the defense kind of intensifies in playoffs. It gets colder. Guys don't want to get hit as hard. And this is back in the day where you ran that slant route. Your head went on a swivel. Ray Lewis could take it off. So that was giving Flacco the ball back. I think what Houston is doing is very similar, where they're getting the ball back for C.J. Stroud or just forcing punts and stuff like that. So they're getting more opportunities. I just don't think they're compounding these opportunities into points enough to where I think New England will.
I'm taking the Texans 17-16.
I'll take New England 24-16.
Hey, all I'm going to say is, and we ain't got to get into this again, but all I'm going to say is that man had a playoff run, 11 touchdowns with no interceptions. They gave up 34 in the Super Bowl, or 31 in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
They gave up 35 at Denver in the playoffs. Stop it. You know what I'm saying?
I didn't say he played poorly in the playoffs. I said during the regular season, his percentage was like 50. I said it ramped up in the playoffs.
I know.
So he definitely did his thing in the playoffs, but throughout that whole season, it was they were getting the ball back for him. It was like that for most of his career up until that point. I'm not saying he wasn't a big game guy. It's just that was an advantage that he had. And then the playoffs, especially that playoff run when we were back in Korea, fighting a good war. That was the culmination of it. So he did his thing. It was aided by some of the greatest defensive players in the history of the sport.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The greatest defensive players in the sport that were giving up 30 points. All right, so Rams and Bears.
Not all. There's 3 of them that were the greatest defensive players.
Not quite Sunday night football. I believe the game is at 6:30. But live from Soldier Field, projected 16-degree weather. Got them California boys coming in. Mr. Logical, can the Bears get to the NFC Championship game? Will we see some Caleb Clutch Gene?
They can't play with their food the way they've been playing with some of these other teams. They can't. It has to be. They can't go 2 or 3 drives in a row without moving the ball, establishing the flow, and giving up back-to-back touchdown drives to the Rams.
Right.
Because the Rams, I heard something today, like probably a few hours ago, about the Rams. It was like Greg Olsen was on the podcast. He was talking to someone I forgot. But he's like, the Rams come out at 11 personnel, and they run the ball effectively out of that because you got to come out nickel because their wide receivers block so well on the edge and set the edge to the point where they can stay in those formations and do anything out of it because their ability to run the ball in those formations. And then the play action off of that, Stafford seeing every coverage, anything you can throw at a quarterback, he's seen it all over the last 16, 17 seasons. So for that, I would factor in the weather,
Mm-hmm.
but unfortunately, Caleb Williams has a completion percentage battle, and I think the weather won't help. So I think he'll be around again 52, 55. I think last week he was right at 50%. I think he was like 24 for 48, something like that, 22 for 44, somewhere in that range. Uh, so with the weather, I think that's going to factor in as well. Stafford played in the dome in Detroit, so he, not like he's a veteran of cold weather. I just think that McVay will play within a scheme that's going to get him and his team in position to keep getting first downs, keep collecting chunk yards, and then go for the shot. Whereas I think Ben Johnson might press, and Caleb Williams can miss 4 passes in a row, and he'll come out and call another pass. Like just not really understanding. Not saying not understanding, but not really like allowing the moment to kind of come to them and trying to force it. And I don't think McVay is gonna let you off the hook the way LaFleur did.
So you remember earlier, I gave that insane stat about Indiana when they rush for when they run for 4 yards per carry.
Yeah.
The Bears are 8-0 when they run for 140 yards. So there's your key stat right there. The Rams have the pass rush. You talked about Durant the other day giving up the big plays and getting picked on. So when I peel back this game, I mentioned earlier that Bo Nix has that Caleb Williams in him where they kind of just wait until they need to turn it on when the game is in dire straits, and then you see the best of them. The problem with the Rams that you didn't have when you were playing Green Bay couldn't establish the run, and they've struggled all season with that. The Rams still have Kyron Williams. You know what I mean? There's still a quorum behind him. So the Rams will run the ball if they have to. I go back to the NFC Championship game last year. Oh, I'm sorry, the divisional round last year when the Rams went to Philly. Same kind of weather, but they had snow. And the Rams were right there at the end, ready to win this game.
Jalen Carter.
And, and Saquon had some big plays. So the Rams have to keep the Bears in check. And I know this is old football talk that doesn't sound like great in-depth analysis, but load that box and make Caleb beat you. Now, you do have DJ Moore out there, so you got speed. You got Luther Burden out there, Adunze. So you have speed. But to your point about the completion percentage, put Caleb in a position where you have to make him make the decision because there's games, and you and I aren't necessarily, Merrill Hodge or somebody out here breaking down the film, but you and I both 2 to 3 times a game, if not maybe even 4. We find plays where Caleb missed that. Somebody was open and he threw the ball to the wrong place, or he took off too early, or he waited too long, held on to the ball, so he had to take off. You can't do that against this team because, to your point, Sean McVay is going to make you pay for every mistake. He's probably the best coach in the league right now. He's going to make you pay for every mistake that you make. So if the Bears lose any ground here, and I told we talked about the Packers, going into last week, they still only scored 3 points in that first half. So 3 games against the Packers, they scored 9 first half points. So the Rams are going to come out ready to make a statement. And the other thing is, as great as we have been talking about how Caleb is been the last couple of weeks with the game on the line.
Yeah.
Oh, go check Matt Stafford's game-winning drives. He's got a ton of them. So he's not going to be rattled. He's not going to fall apart or get, distraught. And just the way that you brought up Durant, I saw what Jordan Love did to the Bears secondary last week. And you got the MVP coming in. So I'm going with the Rams. I'm going with the Rams 35-24.
Oh, I got 27-20 just because I think the weather is going to be a factor where it's going to be a lot of running the ball, controlling the clock. We're not trying to be out here for 4 hours playing football in this 16 degrees. So that's 16 when it starts at 6:30.
Yeah.
Sun's gone. It's only going to get colder. I was at Lake
Oh, and they
Houston.
said that.
around
Yeah, they
Chicago.
said the wind chill is going to bring it to below zero.
So the wind chill is bad. That's not really, conducive for a lot of passes. I just think Matthew Stafford, because of the big arm, he'll be able to cut through the wind with some of his passes. Tom Brady was talking about it a lot last week about, hey, the way you have to throw the ball in the wind. I think Stafford has probably more games because he's played a handful of games in Chicago throughout his career. A good amount in
Yeah, he's 2-2 if
uh,
I remember correctly in Chicago
and then he's played. He has his
with the
games in Green
Rams,
Bay.
or I can't
Even
remember.
yeah, I'm thinking all the way back to his time in Detroit.
Right,
Like
right, right, right,
he's
right, right,
played
right.
in these conditions, so it's like he's no new jack, no peewee, so he'll be able to understand how to cut through the wind. I got 27-20. I think that's a reasonable score. I feel like I didn't like the handshake with Ben Johnson and Matt LaFleur. I feel like this us against the world thing, this persona they're trying to like take on is like not factual. Like no one was ever against Chicago. People thought Caleb Williams
Yeah.
like maybe
Oh,
wasn't the
that's what it
guy.
was.
What's that?
That's what it was. Since Sean McVay has been the Rams coach, they're 2-2 when the weather is 32 or below at kickoff. Matt Stafford, to your point, has only played 5 games when it's been that cold, or 6 games. I'm sorry, and they are 3, and he's 3-3 in his career.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
but he's played in
yeah, I
Chicago.
mean,
To your point, like not 15 degrees or whatever, but he's played when it's been cold and windy. So
yeah,
he knows what to do, and I'm going to trust him and Sean McVay working in unison with one another to get this done. So that leaves me with an AFC Championship game of Buffalo Houston, which is scary for Buffalo because Houston seems to have their number. Remember, Josh Allen went 9 for 30 against them in a game last year. They beat them this
yeah.
year on Thursday Night Football. And then you got Rams and Seahawks in the NFC Championship game.
I got Buffalo, New England. So 2 division opponents in both AFC and NFC championships. So a lot of football been played. Was it like 284 games or something like that? I think the math works out for the regular season, but it's going to come down to the AFC East versus the NFC West in the Super Bowl. Who's going to win it out? That's what I have going on. I don't know who's going to represent who. We'll see how it goes after these games are played this weekend.
Right.
We'll make our prognostications next week or in a
And
couple of
then,
weeks before Super Bowl extra starts.
And then, of course, we both got the Hoosiers. So he is the one and only world famous, world renowned, cool, calm, and collected, born in Texas, raised in VA, representing everything New Jerusalem, even though somehow he found his way on the side of Buffalo this weekend. He is Mr. Logical. And then, of course, down here in the Alamo, I'm your resident unorthodox statistician, going left so much that you thought I was Southpaw, going left so much that you thought I was Bo Nix running from the blitz. I am 2-5. This is Sports Reports' Order. We will be back on Tuesday with recap.
Shout out.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. Shout out to the Northern Burlington JV and varsity basketball. JV won on the last second 3. The coach drew up a great play. 1 dribble pull up for 3. Crowd goes wild. Everyone's rushing the floor. It's great. And then we had the varsity game right after that. Back and forth win to overtime. The end of regulation, we got a still a half court, 3 seconds left. Our freshman guard trying to beat the clock, rushed the layup a little bit, but we end up winning in overtime. 2 clutch free throws by our senior Rowan Boyce. So, yeah, back-to-back victories. overtime, and then you had the buzz beater. It was a nice little night. It took forever because the refs called 50 fouls. I'm not exaggerating. We shot I think me and my son were trying to do the math. They shot somewhere around 48 to 52 free throws.
Wow.
I'm like, dog, 3 refs and y'all just keep even in overtime. It's like, yo, just take it to the cup. They're going to call a foul every time. Still was exciting, but it was just like sometimes. And one of the coaches, he said something. He was like, man, let the kids decide. And I'm like, I'm with you. But with all in all, I think they're on like a 7 or 8 game win streak. Exciting basketball. Just like being a part of just being a fan in the stands, talking slick. I don't get crazy. I used to be irate. Now I'm just like, all right, let me chill.
Yeah.
My blood pressure get up too high. But yeah.
And so we'll be back on with recaps. And of course, like I said, the national title game is Monday. So we'll be talking about that on Tuesday as well. And of course, we will go around the association. But we love y'all so much. Thank you for your support. Thank you for joining us. Thanks for the love and support out there. Thanks for the arguments. Thanks for never understanding what I'm trying to say and just arguing just to argue. Sports
Absolutely.
Reports Disordered. We love y'all so much. See you in a few days.
No gimmicks, no clowns, 2-5 Mr. Logical, we run this town. Real talk only, no chasing, no doubt. From the east to the west, it's the order we shout. Mic check, lights flash, game time, stay ready. 2 vets in the zone, keep the pressure real heavy. Big hits, big plays, yeah, we breaking it down. Truth rings in your speakers, every word is the crown. From the north side hustle to that southern flame. Midwest grind, west coast of the game. Sports talk kings, yeah, we wear that